surveys consistently show that over 75% of people in organizations are not fully committed to the work of that organization, or as one French chief executive said to me, "My people only turn up to go home," carrying their wages with them. And I think that's a terrible thing, that people spend most of their working lives not really sort of enjoying or involved in the work they're doing. They're just doing it to make money. And that doesn't seem to me fully human. So I want to change that if one could. One way that is happening, it seems to me, and this has been happening for about 40 years now, that the age of the employment organization is gradually coming to an end. And we're getting now the organizing organization. So instead of having everybody inside the organization so that you can tell them what they're doing is very convenient, that's now got too expensive. And so more and more people are outside the organization as, contracting firms, contracted individuals, specialist skills, and so on and so forth. More people outside than inside now. And so we're now getting what I call the butterfly economy. Lots of self-employed people, soon more self-employed than all those public sector. Many tiny little firms, because a lot of these people, turn themselves into mini businesses for tax reasons often. There are around 92% of all the businesses in Britain have less than 5 people. These are tiny little, what I call butterfly businesses. And those are much more exciting to work in, But we need to prepare. We need to prepare our nation for that, because nobody's actually realizing what's happening, I think. So far, education has prepared people, in a sense, to have qualifications to move from one institution to another, from school to university or college, from college, university to the organization, which will train them all up and so on until eventually they retire. That world is gone. That world is totally gone. So we've got to train people, educate them, but also train them to work in the butterfly economy, which means they have to create their own work. If you join an organization, work comes at you, and you do it for better or worse, but you're not actually creating much. But in the butterfly economy or self-employed world, you have to make the work, you have to create it. I remember when I became a self-employed person, I made my own study, and I set it all up, and I had an in tray and an out tray, but nothing came into the in tray. For the first time in my life, nothing came in. And I suddenly realized life was very different, and I hadn't been prepared for that. All the things that you need in work, like creativity, cooperation, imagination, resilience, actually character above all else, there's no room for that in the normal school curriculum. You find it in the sports field, you'll find it in the drama, you'll find it in the music theatres and so on, but not in the classroom. So I want, in a sense, to change the classrooms. I want them to become places of project work. So I want all the homework, the knowledge accumulation to be done at home in your iPad or computer. You come into school, you work in groups to solve problems, and then you go out into the sports field and you take active participation. You have a different form of leadership from one place to the other, or you go into the drama world, which I think is excellent preparation for life outside, because you learn to present yourself, you learn to work in harmony with other people, you learn to inhabit different personae, and I think that's all kind of real preparation for the world outside. At the moment, it's happening on the fringes of the school education, and I think it should be the core of school education. I'm greatly in favor of the university technology colleges, where they actually engage with businesses and give them projects to do in the real world. So I want work to be part and parcel of life, actually. Even in my old age, I find work is absolutely essential to get me out of bed in the morning. I don't get out of bed in the morning to watch TV. I get out of bed in the morning because there are things to do, people to see, places to go to work. And that gives me an identity too, so that I'm not just, people say what you do, and you can't say I'm retired. But the world's got to get used to it. I was rung up the other day by somebody from a social survey, and he said, where do you live, etc., etc., and then what you do. I said, I'm self-employed. He said, great. He said, in your 40s or your 50s? And I said, in my 80s. And he put the phone down. I don't know whether he thought I was joking or whether there's no room in his form. And indeed, when I was applying for some tax exemption in the United States the other day, and they wanted my birth date, year of birth, and they have a thing you scroll down. It didn't go down to my birth date. They obviously didn't recognize that anybody would be looking for a tax exemption over the age of 80. And I think that's a shame, actually. So I need work, and so do young people need work, but it doesn't have to be in an organization. It can be with a little group of people setting up a pop group. They can be setting up a tuck shop. Or even walking a dog car. I mean, all sorts of services need to be provided, which young people can do. It doesn't need much money these days. Low entry costs because of the internet and so on. The world is available. Lots of work to be done, no jobs. If I was talking to the CEO of a big organization, I would try and advise him to try as far as possible to make it a collection of small organizations. Get away from this kind of functional formation of like an army. But even if you think about armies, they end up as small organizations. So, I mean, some of the biggest organizations in the world is a business called Haier in China, which is the largest white goods manufacturer in the world. It's got 70,000 people, but they're divided into tiny little groups, largely responsible for their own work. And so you can do it. So make your organization a big collection of small organizations who have some responsibility to organize the way they work and what they do. And you measure them not by how they do it, but by what they do, by the results. What they really want is the freedom to control and design their life space. And that means in taking control of time, even at the sacrifice of money. And that's very interesting, I think. So if you want to capture these people in an organization, you've really got to give them a lot of flexibility and allow them, well, maybe to only work 4 days a week. There's a lot of people now increasingly prefer to work 4 days a week and have 3 days off, even if they lose money by it. And that's because people want to regain their humanity, want to have control of this life that they've suddenly found themselves in. They're not going to give that life away to an enormous anonymous corporation just known by its initials. I used to want to do that once, and I was a big organization. Luckily, I married a woman who thought that was the most outrageous thing to do. Giving my life to a lot of people you don't know, what a strange idea. And isn't it strange that so many of us still think that's what work is all about? It doesn't have to be that way. Not now. We've got all the flexibility and all the information that we need to do it another way, even if it is part of a large organization. If we have the freedom within that to create something that's us, so that we can actually put our name on it in a way. That would bring back humanity. Set my people free.